automate everything possible. Automate your mortgage payments, automate your credit card payments, anything that can be automated, do, especially those 401k contributions. Automate everything.
This show is dedicated to helping you strengthen your family tree and live financially free. Thank you so much for being here today, everybody. There comes a time in our lives when we're ready to take control of our finances. Perhaps we're sick and tired of our mountain of student loans or our pitiful savings account, or maybe we're finally ready to invest for our retirement. So where do we begin? There are so many things to do, and we're way behind. Have no fear, my friends. I've invited Bobbi Rebell on the show today to share how we can all become financial grownups starting now. Bobbi is a certified financial planner and the host of the Financial Grownups podcast. Her show and her book, How to Be a Financial Grownup, captures unique personal finance stories from inspirational leaders like Tony Robbins, Drew Barrymore, and Kevin O'Leary. She is also an award-winning TV anchor and a personal finance columnist, most recently at Thomson Reuters, which is the largest news organization in the world. Bobbi's also a proud New Yorker living with her husband and her 3 kids. Welcome to the show, Bobbi.
Hey, Andy, I'm so excited to be here. Now I can add this to my resume.
Oh, awesome.
I was a guest on your show.
I love it. Thanks for that compliment.
Now I know I've made it.
So, Bobbi, what does it mean to be a financial grown-up?
So it doesn't mean having a bazillion dollars or being perfect at everything. It's really just about being intentional about your financial decisions and doing your best and doing things on purpose, not just ignoring it and figuring it'll work out, but being deliberate.
I love it. I love it. So, we have these moments, and you and I've chatted on your show where we just kind of get jolted and have this epiphany moment. What causes somebody to have that moment to say, "Hey, it's time for me to grow up financially"?
Well, this is exactly the right show to talk about that on, because it usually is when you go through these life events like getting married or having a kid, because things are changing and you are forced to grow up by external factors. It's very rare that someone goes, "Hey, I'm having being responsible for nothing. Let me just suddenly start, really focusing." Usually it's kind of put upon you, and hopefully it's a happy thing like getting married or having kids. Sometimes it can be having to take care of a parent as we get older, or having, God forbid, an illness in your family or something that happens that you are forced to really wake up and be an adult and then also focus on the financial aspects of that.
So when it's really something that matters in our lives with our family, we need to jump in and say, "Hey, all right. I've had a lot of fun, and I'm ready to take control here."
There are some people that, of course, we have some very precocious, little children that sometimes do that. I'm sure Zoe is already a financial grown-up, but not all of us.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. So when was your moment? When did you feel like, "Hey, I'm ready to be a financial grown-up"?
There were many moments, Andy. Many. It's a constant evolution. But thankfully, I think that I had a very tough time in my 20s. I got married relatively young, and I was divorced in my 20s from a brief marriage. And that was the first time I kind of realized, wait a second, I can't just be my parents' kid. I can't just be my now ex-husband's wife. I have to be an individual and own my own financial future. I know that's become a saying for some companies, but basically the idea was, whether I get married, have kids, whatever happens in my life, I needed to know that things were going to happen and I needed to be okay. And I needed to create a base of skills, of money in the bank, resources, et cetera, that would create a base of financial security for myself, just for myself first. Kind of like putting that the mask on, the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help other people, knowing that things could change around me, but I needed to own it.
How's that manifest itself in your relationship now with your current husband? Are you guys having constant money conversations? Are you feeling that ownership now? How are things changed?
I'm feeling the ownership, Andy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, my husband, we were married as a second marriage in our 30s. And because we both had failed early, let's just say it, I think we came very determined to win. And we also knew the importance that conversations about money play in a successful marriage. And so we do have those conversations, but we also focus very much on streamlining our finances so that we're not constantly talking about it, because that is not fun. So we talk about the big things that are important, but truthfully, in terms of the logistics and the day-to-day, I run it. And I talk a lot about someone has to be the CFO of your family. In my family, I'm the certified financial planner. My husband works very intensely at his job. He travels a lot. So I am the person that makes sure the bills get paid, that makes sure we have insurance for the right things, that makes sure the kids' medical forms get filled out, all the permission slips, all the little details that go on in your life are on me. Now, there's an open book. He can see what's going on at any time, and we will discuss any big decisions. But at the end of the day, I do believe someone has to own that.
Well, that's cool. So,
and I know that's controversial. Some people really believe in everything should be equally split and split up duties, but for us, that's what works.
No, it's got to work for whatever relationship you're in, right? I mean, everybody's got their own recipe for success, and it sounds like that one works well for you two. So let's say that somebody's listening to this right now and saying, "Hey, nobody has control in my house. No, there's no CFO. There's no junior finance person.
Someone's got to step up." I mean, at the end of the day, or truthfully, you can outsource a lot of things these days. You can hire somebody to manage your money. But again, that would probably be a cost. So that's a decision. But someone's got to step up. That is being a financial grown-up. And most of the stuff is not very hard. You just have to take the time to focus and learn how to do things. And it is pretty simple.
And, a lot of people use the excuse of just, I don't have time. I don't have time to think about it. I'm busy, things like that. What can they do?
You can automate. Take a day. People talk about having me time and I need a day for wellness. Well, take a half a day, one day when you would normally take a vacation day even. Sorry, but take it. It'll pay for itself. Trust me. It'll pay for a vacation someday probably. But take a half a day and go through and automate everything possible. Automate your mortgage payments. Automate your credit card payments. Anything that can be automated, do. Especially make sure you dive into your HR website at your job and automate those 401k contributions. You can even automate increasing them by 1% once a year, sometimes even more than once a year, but automate everything. And that way you're not stressed about stuff all the time. And that way you're not having conversations with your spouse all the time. Of course, check in about big decisions, but that shouldn't be the everyday dinner conversation in your family.
You mentioned retirement, getting with my HR person. Let's say I'm listening. I'm not even saving anything for retirement. Talk to me about those conversations I need to have with my HR person to get that going.
Well, the truth is you don't even need to have a conversation with a person, because in 99% of companies, it's on a website. It's so much easier than even picking up the phone. It's literally logging on to your corporate website. And in almost every website, it is right there, front and center, how to put money into a 401k. The bigger decision actually is whether to put it into a Roth 401k or a regular 401k. In most cases, if you meet the income requirements for a Roth, it's going to be better off to pay the taxes now. Basically, a Roth, in short, you're going to pay the taxes up front and then everything is growing tax-free. In a regular 401k, you're going to pay the taxes when you take it out. And the theory of that is that maybe when you're retired, your taxes might be lower. I'd rather get the taxes out of the way and just know I'm free. Know that when I look at that number, I'm free and clear. But you can do most of this without even talking to a human being, Andy. That's how easy it is. So it's really important to start doing that kind of automated stuff. And then automate everything you can. Automate 529 contributions. You automate your taxes just by filling out the forms when you first get your job. So think about it that way. The more you're not touching every day, the better it's going to be in almost every case.
I love it. And then as you're researching the 529 and the 401k, what are some pitfalls to look out for when you're doing that? Because it can be intimidating, all these acronyms and numbers and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the most important thing is just to do it. Okay. Doing a 401k versus not doing a 401k is always a win. Within that, the 401k from your company often has choices, and you can look and see the costs, different mutual funds. So one thing that you want to look for, and in many cases avoid, is the target date fund, because they're often funds of funds. So the fees are on top of the fees. Not always, but often. Still might be right for you, but that's something to kind of look out for. They can be more expensive. Index funds will generally be less expensive. So within the discretion that you have in your 401k, look for what is best for your needs. Also, when you look at the 401k, find out what you're paying, because many people think that their 401k admin fees are covered by the company, but in fact, you are paying. So if you find out that your 401k or retirement plan is very expensive on a relative basis, let your HR people know. They may not even realize it. They may have inherited the plan from other people. The fees may have gone up over the years in a greater proportion to other ones. So it's fine to just flag it for your HR department and say, maybe we can look into getting lower cost admin for our 401k.
Love it. I love it. Well, so, some people I've spoken to talk about retirement. Yeah, I would invest for retirement, but man, I've got these student loans that've been around forever. Where's the best place for people to start if they just want to tackle these student loans?
Well, I think the most important thing actually is to take a step back from that, Andy, and not get the student loans in the first place. There are people that have used student loans for things other than tuition.
I don't know who those people are. You're talking fantasy here, lady.
Well, the truth, yeah. I'm going to let you reveal that in a minute.
Okay.
Or maybe we'll just send them to my podcast to hear what exactly Andy spent his student loan money on that was not tuition.
It's shiny and it goes on a lady's finger. So
no. Worth every penny, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just not every penny of the interest that you paid.
That's right.
But I interviewed recently a doctor it was a Lister episode, and I couldn't believe it. He bought a car. His colleagues were buying tech stocks in the .com bubble with their student loan money instead of paying for tuition. So the first thing you should do is don't take out more student loans than you need to actually cover school. So basic, and yet so often. I now am hearing stories about people buying cryptocurrency with their student loan money. Exactly. So it's ridiculous. But if you have it, it's always a good idea to look at the actual numbers and run the numbers and see, okay, I think you had said, Andy, your student loans were in the 6 or 7% range.
Yes.
Sometimes you can refinance them, you can consolidate them. There's a lot of companies like SoFi, Student Loan Hero, companies that do that. And I have no affiliation with those companies, by the way. And you can get a lower rate, consolidate them, and that will actually help as well. But I'm a big believer in just working hard, do the side hustles. More money does solve a lot of problems.
We'll be back to the show in just a moment after a word from our sponsors. If you're considering buying a home, your credit score matters. The higher your score, the better chances you have for a lower interest rate, potentially saving you thousands per year. I have a free way for you to keep track of your credit score. It's called Credit Sesame. Credit Sesame allows you to get your credit score each month and monitor your credit at no cost. They also send you daily monitoring alerts if there are any changes to your credit report. Not only does Credit Sesame help you monitor and manage your credit, it helps you protect it too. They give you $50,000 in identity theft insurance along with fraud resolution assistance for free. In the event you're ever a victim of identity theft, they've got you covered. To get your free account with no credit card required, go to creditsesame.com/MKM. That's creditsesame.com/MKM and get your free credit score today. Are you looking for an easy way to track your budget, your debt paydown, and your net worth all in one place? Tiller has got you covered, my friends. Tiller is the easiest way to optimize your personal and business finances with the flexibility of a spreadsheet. Their powerful templates like the Debt Snowball spreadsheet or the Net Worth Tracker or the classic Tiller Budget template gets you kickstarted and allows you to truly control your money. The beauty of the Tiller system is that it automatically updates your financial information through Google Sheets and, in the near future, Excel. This way, you're taking away the cumbersome process of updating your spreadsheets and putting it in the hands of your good fintechy friend, Tiller. To try Tiller for 30 days for free and to support this show, go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Tiller. That's marriagekidsandmoney.com/Tiller, Tiller. With Tiller, you'll never be surprised by your account balance again. Thanks for considering our sponsors today, everybody. Let's jump back into that interview. You know, some other financial grown-up moments that I've been hearing about just through talking to people who are listening to the show or that call in or ask questions is, fighting the only live once, the YOLO, right? Like these urges to spend money when you see other people out there doing the same thing. How do you internally just ignore what's going on out there and then just say, hey, I really have to clean up my mess? What are some things that people can do to start making a difference?
Yeah, I'm laughing at that question because here in New York City, with my young son, my 11-year-old in private school, I know nothing about that, of course. But seriously, I would just hit the pause button, first of all, and just take a step back. Think about what your values are and what you see from them. If you're tempted to buy something, for example, just hit the pause button. And if you still want it in 24 hours, then maybe, and by the way, if you still want it in 24 hours, if it's like an item that you were shopping for, they sometimes will give you a discount. So that's another way to save money. But in terms of people, I think it's okay to turn off social media as just a shallow, easy solution for a little bit. Take a break, turn off the screens, read a book. I just read books last weekend for the whole 2 days, and it was great. I didn't have that purpose in mind, but it really calmed my mind. So just getting away from the screens. And also, it's good to have a real conversation with your friends that you may perceive as not having any spending limits or any budgets. And I'm not talking about people that are super flashy, but just friends that you think maybe are just super free with their money and no concerns, because they may actually have budget concerns just like yours. And it can be really beneficial to have those conversations. It could be as simple as if you make dinner plans with friends. I'll sometimes just say, hey, let's make it budget friendly, wink, wink. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. And that's fine. I mean, if they're your real friends, it's fine. And sometimes maybe you will go out and splurge. But even with my son, I was thinking about putting him in camp, day camp, before he goes to overnight camp, because we have 1 week between school ending and that the overnight camp. And my son was interested in going to this very expensive parkour camp that goes on for a week. And I was thinking maybe he could go with his friend, and I mentioned it to the friend's mom, and she said, okay, we could think about that. And then I mentioned that, gee, it's this much per day, and it's a lot per day. And she's like, yeah, I know. That's why I was hesitating. And I had no idea that it would even be something she would even think about. And she said, you know what? Maybe instead of sending them to camp, I'm already paying a nanny for my 2 kids. Maybe we'll just have the boys play together at my house. And that way we can both do our work and the boys will have the same time together, and we would be paying double basically, because we would each be paying the daily camp fee. And that's just by bringing it up. And she was so relieved. And this is not someone that's poor or struggling or anything, but it's kind of like, no, we really don't need to spend that money. And she was really happy about that. So don't make assumptions that people that even the nicest people that you see doing all these things, they might have their own ways of saving money, and they care too. Just because someone has money doesn't mean they don't budget and they're not mindful of their money.
I love it. That's great advice. I mean, we do need to jump out of the Instagram world and realize the reality of what's going on in people's lives. You and I like talking about money. It's something that's just in our DNA, I think. People who are listening to this right now maybe are thinking, well, I can't talk to somebody about money. That would just make me feel uncomfortable, make them feel uncomfortable. Do you think that's just the wrong way to think?
I think it depends on the relationship and the situation and the need of that relationship. You don't really need to talk to your friends about money if you don't want to. I mean, you could just suggest a restaurant in the scenario I talked about and not say, hey, if they're not a friend that you feel comfortable saying, hey, let's go somewhere, budget friendly because we're saving up for summer camp. You don't have to, but you could just take charge of the situation and say, I heard about this great restaurant, and not mention that it's budget friendly. So if it's not necessary, you don't have to. Now, in a marriage, it's going to be necessary. So if you're getting married to somebody, you need to find a way to be able to have conversations. So it just depends. But if it's not a comfortable situation and you don't have to, that's okay.
I love this. It's great advice. Well, we're touching on a variety of grown-up moments here for us to really jump into, really taking control of our finances, having these important conversations, and getting rid of our debt, retirement. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about before we head out is insurance. I know that this is not a sexy topic whatsoever, but it's super crucial to protect our families. What's the most important types of insurance that we need as parents as we grow up?
The minute someone's pregnant, get life insurance. Absolutely. That is absolutely the most important thing. I think I mentioned to you before we started recording, my mom lost her father early in life, and had he not had insurance, who knows what her life would have been. She was able to go on and go to college and so on. And so it's so important. You don't know what life will hold. So the minute there's the possibility of children in the picture, it's really important to have life insurance. And also, if you have dependents in any way, you should have life insurance, whoever that may be. But certainly with children, that's important. It's also important to have disability insurance because especially if you have one breadwinner in the house, something could happen. And we don't always think about that, but disability is more common than losing your life when you're young. So you need to make sure that you can still have that cash flow to support your family if it's needed. Hopefully it won't ever be needed. Then there's things that are sort of discretionary. So for example, my husband and I are about a decade older than you. We're in our 40s now, and it's young for this, but I just love insurance, Andy. I don't know. But we have long-term care insurance now, which we picked up recently. And I just like the idea of having it because it basically will cover if we need to be in some kind of a nursing home when we're older. I don't want that to ever have to be a burden for our children because those things can be very expensive. That's extremely discretionary. We are young for it. And it's controversial. It's definitely something that a lot of people don't think is needed. So that's something to see what's right for you, and certainly not something usually needed at such a young age. We like it. I'm also a fan, and again, controversial, of pet insurance. Anyone that follows me on social media knows I have a Morkie named Waffles. We are considering getting a friend for Waffles soon. So I really don't ever want to make a decision based on money for her health care. I know that I would not. It's like your engagement ring story. I know I just blew the surprise now, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make an emotional decision. If anything is needed for my Waffles, we're going to do it. And we're just going to drain the bank account. And that's not financially responsible. This way, the bank account that gets drained will be the insurance company's bank account. And hopefully that will never happen. But I don't want to ever say, oh my gosh, I have to spend my child's savings to save the dog. That's just not where I want to go. So for me, pet insurance is very important, even though the math does not always work the way people would like.
It makes you feel comfortable.
It's emotional, it's security. The math is tricky though. So I can't endorse it for everyone, but for me and for my family, pet insurance is something that's very important to us.
That's great. And then what names are you considering for pet number 2?
So my husband wants Rocket. Mm-hmm. I want Daisy.
I like it.
So we'll see.
Nothing that's like a good pairing with waffles, like waffles and I don't know. Syrup or something.
People have suggested pancakes.
You're not having it. Okay.
I want Daisy. I don't know. Waffles was almost Rocket. So okay. I feel like Rocket might win, but I don't know. We'll have to report back.
I like it. Well, it's cause for another conversation. So Bobbi, you have spoken to 30 financial role models for your book, and then even more now for your awesome podcast, which I've had a chance to not only listen to, but be on.
Yay.
Yay. What was one of the coolest, most grown-up, fun tip that stuck out to you in all your conversations that you had? I have to ask.
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I don't pick favorites. I think people have to listen. I always say my most recent interview is my favorite interview. I mean, the tips are all over the place, Andy, as you know. People talk about flossing your teeth to save money. People talk about getting freebies and exercise classes. People talk about the high-low restaurant method. There's all kinds of quirky tips. There's one that is about diapers and plants, How's that for a tease? So there's all kinds of stuff happening in the Financial Grownup podcast. It is definitely a quirky and eclectic personal finance show, but we're having a really good time. And my guests bring the most amazing money stories. We do talk about paying off debt and things like that. And we do talk about student loans and insurance and all those important things. But we also have a lot of entrepreneurial stories. We have stories about how people choose to spend their money on all kinds of crazy things and the kinds of investments people make and real estate. It's all over the place and always entertaining. I'm always smiling at the end of interviews with my guests like you. And so it's a lot of fun, and I hope people will tune in.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Bobbi. Where's the best place for people to find your book and purchase it?
So my book, easiest place is Amazon, or you can just go to my website, bobbirebell.com. There's lots of buy the book buttons there.
Excellent. And then for people who want to listen to the show or just connect with you, where's the best place to go?
So my website is just my name, bobbirebell.com. For the podcast, it's bobbirebell.com/financial grown up podcast. And I am on all the social media channels at Bobbi Rebell. Instagram, I'm Bobbi Rebell with the number 1 afterwards. We'll see if I can get Bobbi Rebell back. We're working on that.
Somebody beat you to it.
No, I messed it up, actually. I wish I could say that, Andy. I messed it up, and they took it from me, and they won't give it back. It's a long story. I know. It's so sad, but I just messed it up. I don't know. We'll see if we can get it back. But it's locked away.
Bummer.
Instagram's fickle that way.
It is.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'll put all those links and resources in the show notes for everybody to connect with you. And I really appreciate your time today. It was a blast talking to you, helping everybody become a more grown-up financial person in their lives, being a financial grown-up. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for your show. I really love it. I love the values that you talk about and your wonderful advice.
Oh, thank you very much, Bobbi. I appreciate it. This interview was all about action and tips for your financial success. Bobbi does not mess around. She wants you to win just like I do. And she hinted at an extremely embarrassing interview that I did with her. And I'll put it in the show notes for you to check out. Let's just say it wasn't a very financially grown-up move on my part in my late 20s. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes. You guys can check it out. To help us all grow up financially, here are my top 3 takeaways from today's interview with Bobbi. Number 1, don't have time to fix your finances? Automation is your friend. Bobbi hit the nail right on the head with this one. You do not have to be a financial wizard to develop strong financial habits because automation does all the work for you. You set it and forget it. And then you look back years later and voila, you got a boatload of cash. Automated savings, automated mortgage payments, automated bill pay. This way, you're allowing the super duper computer robots to create wealth for you. My favorite is the automated 401k contributions. When I started my job almost 5 years ago, I automated my 401k contributions by maxing them out. My account balance was 0, and now, almost 5 years later, voila, 120K. Yes, we had an awesome market during those 5 years, but automation definitely did the trick. Low-cost index funds, a company match, and I just left it alone. If you're not contributing to your 401k or taking full advantage of your company match, get on it today, my friends. Number 2, don't overthink your retirement options. Another great point by Bobbi is that people sometimes get all flustered about how many stocks versus bonds or if they have the right mutual fund or not. All of this confusion and complexity precludes people from even starting investing for their retirement at all. Bobbi's advice, just start. Being in the market investing in something is much better than sitting on the sidelines. You're missing out on major compound interest by waiting. Number 3, if you're having money issues, fight the YOLO. The you only live once phenomenon can grab a hold of you and drive you into major debt. New cars, bigger homes, fancy clothes, and dinners are all super fun and exciting. Believe me, I love those things. But if you can't afford them, You just have to fight the urge. And I'm not talking about what the car dealership says you can afford or the mortgage broker says that you can't afford. Don't listen to them. They want your money. Of course. They'll say you can afford a $500,000 home even if you can't. The only way to truly know what you can afford is by laying out your income and expenses and seeing how you can experience the joys of life without going into debt or going broke. Yes, talking about laying out your finances, living on a budget, and really studying what you have. I don't want to be a joy kill or a buzzkill, but spending more than we make will not help us build wealth. It won't protect our families. And all of these nice things that you thought would bring you joy will start to steal your joy. And as Bobbi said, if friends and family are the ones that are putting the pressure on for you to spend, then it's time to have a polite but honest conversation about your financial limits and goals. I think you'll be surprised, actually, about how understanding your true friends and family will be when you share your passion for financial success with them. So, those are my top 3 takeaways. Number 1, use automation to help you fight the I don't have time excuse. Number 2, don't overthink your retirement options. And number 3, if you're having money issues, fight the YOLO. We all have to grow up sometime, right? But that doesn't mean all the fun has to go away. Being financially responsible can actually be a lot of fun if you embrace it as a challenge and celebrate your victories. Let's face it, putting money in your 401k it's not sexy, my friends. But man, neither is not being able to retire with dignity when we're in our 60s. Some small, simple actions taken today can give us a lifetime of joy. Now it's time to announce the Money Master of the Week. Emily from Cincinnati called in to share a recent debt-crushing victory. Take it away, Emily.
Hey, this is Emily from around Cincinnati, Ohio, sharing my win. I paid off a large balance on a 0% interest credit card that I got to help with homeownership expenses last October. I did that by paying off a set amount each month. My next goal is going to be knocking out those student loans, which is great because I'm going to take the payments I was making toward the credit card and add those to my current student loan payments.
Now that is some financial grown-up action. Bobbi Rebell would be so proud, Emily. One of my favorite things about Emily's victory is that she's maintaining that debt pay down discipline now with her student loans. She's taking all that extra money that she's freed up and thrown it at that student debt. It is inevitable. Emily will achieve her debt freedom. I am sure of it. If you want to learn more about Emily and follow her path to debt freedom, check her out at wisemindmoney.com. That's wisemindmoney.com. Emily, thanks for sharing your win, and congratulations for being our Money Master of the Week. Do you have a recent financial victory that you want to share on the show? I would love to highlight you and your win. Email me at andy@marriagekidsandmoney.com or leave me a voicemail like Emily did at marriagekidsandmoney.com/voicemail. I would love to hear from you. You'll find all the links and resources for today's show at marriagekidsandmoney.com/session95. Friends, if you are digging this show, I would really appreciate it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. This 2-minute favor, this 2-minute activity would mean a lot to me. Reviews, they're social proof that help this podcast grow. When people go in and they're looking for podcasts to listen to and they say, oh, that one's got a lot of reviews, let me give that a try. That's the podcast I want. So if you guys could help me out there, I would appreciate that. So for you Apple podcasters out there, go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. Go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Stitcher. I just make it easier. I just put the thing at the end of marriagekidsandmoney.com. Anyway, you get the idea. Thank you for considering it. I really appreciate it. The reviews, they mean a lot to me. In the spirit of growth and inspiration, I'm going to end the show with a quote today from Warren Buffett. Do not save what is left after spending. Instead, spend what is left after saving. The smart money moves you make today will give you an incredible tomorrow. Carpe diem.